Hello and welcome to Zeus's Week 1 update. So here is a session of us working on downs. The very first thing I did before this was work on clicker conditioning. So I would click, feed, over and over until he realized that the click was a marker. That meant he did something right. We have verbal markers as well, like our yes and our good, but the clicker is really good for teaching new behaviors because it's the exact same sound every time. So for the downs, we start with luring, which is where I just have the food in my hand and I bring it to the ground, and then as soon as he's in a down, I click and feed. He lures very easily. I'm assuming he's done this before. And then the next step after that is lure plus pressure. So I'm using a lure and then I'm adding some downwards pressure on the leash. What this is doing is teaching him the language of the leash and learning how to turn that pressure off. So if he ever feels downwards pressure on his leash, he knows that going into the down will turn that pressure off. It's just another more physical way we can communicate with our dogs. And the next step we do is pressure and fake lure. So I'll just have a hand with no food in it and try to lure him with it and add the pressure, and then as soon as he goes into the down, I click and I feed. And this was, I believe, our second session doing all of this, so he has seen some of this before. And then the next step in the progression is new cue, old cue, because we want to get him off of the lure and following our body movement. So we'll say the new cue, which is the verbal word down, and then old cue, which is the leash pressure. And we just repeat this over and over until he realizes that when I say the word down, he's either going to go into the down and get a whole bunch of food and it's going to be great, or I'm going to apply some pressure and help him into the down. And I did see that he knows a sit, so I just went back and retaught him the leash pressure and the implied stay. So all of our commands have an implied stay, which means sit, down, heel, whatever, until I say otherwise. And we say otherwise by using his release word, which is free. This right here is called a jackpot. It's when the dog does something really good. Especially useful when we're teaching a new behavior. As soon as they get it right, it's feed. Look at all the great things you got for doing that. This session here is us working on place. Place is a boundary stay. The rules for place are all 4 feet on the bed, no barking, no growling, no whining. So I started just by luring him up on the bed and feeding him in every corner and telling him place, just showing him where the boundary line is, and then releasing him and doing it over until he understood that food was going to be in those corners, and so that's where he needed to be. Now, for place, we don't require a down. A dog can do whatever they want within rules while on place. But I only feed in a down to encourage them to lay down and relax on it, because it's a boundary stay, so usually we're going to leave them up there a while. So I started by just alluring the down on the place bed, and then eventually he just learned through repetition that every time he downs on the bed, I would feed him. And now he's learning that he's only going to get fed if he's in a down. But we don't layer commands with place, so we don't tell him place and then tell him to down. If we're going to make him be stuck up there, we're going to want him to be comfortable and do whatever. One thing that place is great for is working on your footwork. So you'll notice that when I go to leave his bed and I want him to stay, I say place, and I step off with my right foot. This goes for all commands. If I want you to stay, I'm going to remind you what you should be doing, and I'm going to step off with my right. If I want you to come with me, it's going to be free, and I'm going to step forward with my left foot. So here I was just showing him some food distraction. Even if there are things you want in front of the bed, that doesn't mean you can get off. So I use his punishment marker, which is no, and then I correct him, and then I remind him what he should have been doing, which is place. And he has worked on this once before. And you'll notice that here he's wearing a black collar. This is called a star mark collar. It's basically the baby prong. It's like the step between the star mark. It's like the step between the prong and the slip leash. He's a big boy. He's not super sensitive, so the slip leash really was not doing much at all. He has since been switched to a prong. It works better for him. The tool that we use is completely dependent on the dog, so some dogs are really sensitive and they're good with just a slip leash. Some dogs need a little more than that. Good, very good. Oh, so good. Good job. Good job. So good. So good. Break. Break. Good. Heel. So healing is just a positional exercise, which is just right at my left, paying attention when I move. So the correctable things for healing are being too far forward, being too far back, too far off to the side, not turning when I turn. It just requires engagement. And it does have an auto sit as well, so when we're walking and I come to a stop, he's expected to sit. He learned all these things through luring first, so for most of the first week, I was just feeding him in that same spot all the time. All of his food was just coming from walking with me. And then when I would come to a stop, I would lure him into the sit and then release. So here I decided to walk forward just to fix his positioning a little bit. He came to a stop, but he wasn't exactly where I wanted him. Good. So I just wanted to build reinforcement in the right position. Oh, no sniffing the ground is another rule of healing. Good. So good is our continuation marker, which means I like what you're doing, keep doing it. For right now, while he's newer to training, I'm usually always going to feed on good, but later on, good can be sometimes you might get fed, sometimes you might not. This is our continuation marker. And then our other marker is our terminal marker, which is yes, which means you did exactly what I wanted, and now you're done doing it. It functions the same as a clicker, and yes, we always feed. And then we have free, which is our release marker, which means you're done doing whatever it was you were doing. We don't feed on free. And then we also have no, which is our punishment marker, which is you broke a command or doing something that is inappropriate. And no is always going to be followed by a correction, and then if practical, reminding them what they should have been doing. So it would be no, correction, sit. No, correction, heel. Here you can really see what I was talking about with the footwork. When I want him to stay in the sit, but I'm leaving, I'm stepping off with my right foot. This is because the dogs are used to us doing a lot of heeling, and when they see our left leg go forward, they're used to following along and saying, I'm coming with you. And dogs are very physical creatures. The primary way that dogs communicate with one another is through body language rather than vocalization. So the things that dogs pay the most attention to is going to be our body. So here I was actually layering in some e-collar. So we would repeat the cycle of getting on and off place, and then I would start the stim. I would just go tap, tap, tap on a low level, and then I would tell him place. So I would go tap, place, tap, 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 and as soon as he makes it, I immediately shut the stim off and reward him. This is because we want the dog to think they are in control of the stim, and it is always up to them to turn it off. Good. Down. Good. Down. So here we started a training session, but I noticed he was scared of these little papers we have that were moving around because of the air conditioner. So if you see some weird behavior like this, he initially didn't want to come anywhere near it, so I just dropped a whole bunch of food around it and kept going slightly closer and closer. But I didn't touch it, I didn't make him do anything, I didn't bring him closer, I just simply stood there, put a bunch of food out, and let him realize that it's not scary. Especially with a young dog, it's very important that we do anything we can to boost their confidence.